have the conversation. Nobody wants to have hard conversations anymore. Everybody's afraid to say how they really and truly feel. So what they do is they either give in to whatever the person wants, or they'll avoid them. Just have the conversation.
Welcome back to What's Up With You, everybody. Tonight, we got DeVita. Her IG screen name is at Coach to Christian Counselor. She's a certified Christian life coach and a contributing author to the international best-selling book, I Am Stronger Than the Storm. Tonight, we're going to discuss how to forgive and how to heal. Tonight's show is brought to you by the I Am Chels X store. The promo code is all caps inspired. So when you're done watching this live on Instagram or you're done watching this on YouTube, go to www.iamchelsxstore.com for inspirational merch, apparel, and more. Mrs. DeVita, welcome to the show. What's up with you?
Thank you. I'm recovering. I shared with you earlier that earlier in the week that I was sick for a few days, for about a week or so. So I'm recovering. I feel a whole lot better. So I'm so glad that I was able to get on tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad because I think you were supposed to be on earlier in the month, right? We had to reschedule.
It was. I was supposed to get on in July 16th, but I actually had an event in Cambridge. And I was like, oh man, I'm always double booking. I was like, you know what? I need a personal assistant. I need somebody to help me keep my calendar.
It's all good. We here now. That's all that matters. The past doesn't exist, and the future's just in theory. So, let's jump into it. Forgiveness.
Yes.
How do you define forgiveness? What does forgiveness look like to you?
What forgiveness looks like to me? It looks like me making mistakes and me not having to pay for it for the rest of my life, right? By people.
You all right?
That was a distraction.
Oh, you saw me wave to you?
Yes.
Oh, my fault. I didn't mean to wave to you. I'm going through a wave with everybody.
But yeah,
that was on me. My fault.
No, it's cool. It's me understanding that if I make a mistake, I can be forgiven. We want to be forgiven by the people that we've actually hurt or did something to or what have you, but sometimes that's not always the case. But I have a Father in heaven that's going to forgive me regardless, right? And his word tells me that. So forgiveness to me is knowing that I can make a mistake and I can still come back from that mistake.
Okay, cool. Do you find it harder to forgive yourself or others?
Oh, it's always harder to forgive yourself, especially if you were the one that did some stuff to people. It's always harder to forgive yourself after those things. And then it can be equally as hard when you, let's say, for example, if you're in a really bad relationship and you didn't see the signs, whether they were white, green, red, purple, or whatever. It's hard to forgive yourself even in that aspect, because you're more prone to try and forgive the other person than you are for you, but you're supposed to give yourself the same amount of grace that you would give somebody else. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it does make me wonder why we have such a difficult time forgiving equally.
So glad you asked. Now, I like to trouble the waters. I'm going to start with that. Okay?
Hey, trouble
I like to trouble the waters. We're human, right? We're all human. We strive to be better people daily, I hope. But the reality of it is this. Sometimes we weaponize forgiveness. Sometimes what we do is we'll tell a person that we forgive them, right? And then as soon as something doesn't go right between the two of us, between whoever the parties are involved, we weaponize it. We start to hold it over their head. We start to bring up, remember that time when you did X, Y, and Z? You start to do those things. people tend to do that when they rarely find themselves on the opposite side of in need of forgiveness. See, forgiveness became a thing for me when I found myself being on the other side of needing to be forgiven for something that I've done. We don't think about it as much, right? Until we are the ones that, hey, I messed up. Help me, right? You don't really
Mm-hmm.
think about forgiveness. It can be equally and it should be equally done or extended to one another, but it's not always done that way.
Okay, so what are some practical tips that you would give me on for first forgiving myself and then second for forgiving other people? How do I do that?
I'm so glad you asked that. So I actually have a PowerPoint um, that I actually work from. And it's just for me, it's just to stay on because I can talk about forgiveness all day and I want to make sure I stay on target. Um, but first of all, we see forgiveness to each individual is different, right? We tend to believe that we control how and when a person who wronged us is forgiven. We believe that withholding forgiveness will teach the offender a lesson. And so, if honest, we also tend to believe that forgiveness is a weapon that can be used at our discretion. So we have that out there. Why we weaponize, I don't want to do why we weaponize it. Tips on forgiveness would be understanding that in order to forgive someone, first of all, in order to heal, you have to forgive. And in order to forgive, you have to be able to show empathy towards the person that hurt you. You also have to you have to empathize with your own self. Like, well, why did I do that? Talk yourself out, talk yourself down. Why did I do that? Why did I hurt this person? Why didn't I just walk away? Why didn't I didn't have a kind word to say to X, Y, and Z. I should have just kept my mouth shut and didn't say anything. Sometimes we have to let our own self off the hook. And how that look is going down the list of what we should have done versus what we did do. And I'm not trying to excuse anybody's behavior because there's all different things that we really stand in the need of forgiveness for. But to take yourself off the hook, sometimes you really have to check yourself and say, look, you were wrong. You shouldn't have done what you did. You shouldn't have said what you did. And now you're going to feel it. Forgiveness, me promoting forgiveness or pushing forgiveness does not tell you, or I'm not telling you that you won't feel the ramifications from whatever you have done that to cause yourself to stand in the need of forgiveness.
Mm, that's interesting. So, are you a reader? You
I
read a lot
am
of
a
books?
reader. I do.
Okay, so what are some good books I could read? Actually, I want to ask, yeah, what are some good books that I could read on forgiveness?
So I do a lot of articles, but I
Okay,
didn't even
articles
bring
works
those.
too.
Yeah, so there's a really good article. I'm going to it now. It's called Keys to Forgiveness, and it's a Christian perspective written by Emmett I. Aldrich. And you can find that on inchristianmeditation.org.
Okay.
And he gives 10 keys to forgiveness. So you want me to go through them?
Yeah, tell me I probably need to forgive and forgive myself and all of that good stuff. So what are those
Yes.
10 keys?
Let go of anger. Don't be stubborn. Stop thinking of yourself as a victim. Focus on the future. Relearn to trust. Be reasonable. Examine your heart. Expect that it will take time to forgive. Practice it every day. Ask God for guidance. Oh, that was the 10. Now I'm gonna throw mine in there. Mine is
Okay.
find your hand, find your freedom. And what that means is, I know we all want to believe that it's the other person that did something. Oh, it's the so and so did this to me, and I'll never forgive them, and blah blah blah. But when you find your hand, find your freedom, that means you're searching the problem for how you contributed to that problem. We're not blameless, right? I know we want to believe that we are, but we're not blameless. There are certain situations, that come about that, we couldn't control. But there are a lot of situations that happen often more times than not that we have a hand in it. And I go back to what I said, ignoring red flags. When we ignore red flags about people, about things, about places, got to find your hand and your freedom in that. It's not always the other person.
So when I post my reels, I always use the tagline. I always say, "Take your power back." So it sounds like you're talking about self accountability and just looking at how you contributed to the overall situation, even if you were the one, even if you perceive yourself to be the person who was done wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
even if, so let's, I can make it personal. I'm extremely transparent. I can make it very personal. I had a tendency of overextending myself to people, right? I would
Mm-hmm.
overextend. I'd bring the party. I'm talking about I'd bring everything to the party. And then I got tired. And then I started feeling like, dang, am I only being invited to these things because I bring the party? Like, are people just, I don't want to say using, but are people just keeping me around because of what I can do for them? And so I started getting angry, right? And so I had to sit alone with myself. And God was like, hold up. I know you want to believe that it was them, but it's really you, because not one time did I tell you to do any of the things that you were doing. You went off on your own selfish ambition and you wanted to do things to be seen. I didn't tell you to do those things. You wanted to do them. And so I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself. Now, granted, they didn't have to accept every time I brought something, right? They didn't have to accept it. They could have said, hey, DeVita, no, you're always contributing. You're always doing this. You're always doing that. Not this time. No. But one thing about a taker, they're going to keep taking. They're going to constantly do it.
Yeah, that's what my therapist told me. He was like, "You're more of a generator." He was like, "So as long as you're willing to give away energy, people are gonna take the energy." He was like, "So you're gonna have to learn how to set boundaries and recharge, because eventually you're gonna end up resenting the people that you want to be there for and help." So
Mm-hmm. And
that
the
makes
boundaries
sense.
aren't for them, it's for you.
Well, so okay, explain that to me, because I'm kind of I'm fairly new to the boundary thing
Uh huh.
as a, I'm fairly new to the boundary thing as an intentional act, right?
Okay.
So enlighten me what that means when you say the boundaries are for me and not for them. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's for you because we operate outside of boundaries. If we're in a feel good moment, we're going to do whatever we're more than likely willing to push toward what makes us feel good. So if what makes you feel good is being giving of yourself, helping people, you got to set a boundary because you're a giver. I'm a giver and I'm a very, very generous, cheerful giver. So I have to set boundaries for myself. If that means I have to affirm myself every morning and say, hey, DeVita, you know, you're the bomb.com, you're this, you're that. But today you're going to pick two people that you're going to help. You're going to pick two people that you're willing to do certain things for, and that's it. And don't go beyond that boundary. And if you're helping somebody, set a limit onto how you're helping them, right? I just said I would come to the party and I would bring everything. I would bring the dinner, the dessert, the drinks, everything, right? I didn't have to
Hmm.
do that. I could have set a realistic boundary for myself and said, okay, they're having the party. I'll show up and maybe I'll bring a small gift, to contribute to what they already have. So I now set boundaries for myself. I'm a good baker and a good cook, right? So now if I'm going somewhere, 9 times out of 10, people want me to bring a baked good or something that I cook. I'm not bringing both. I'll bring one and not the other. That's a boundary for me. They can
Okay,
ask,
so
but I'm not going to do it.
okay, I'm following. So how do I deal with it when I've set the boundary for myself, but the people on the other side of the boundary become pushy about me extending my boundary out further to their benefit?
Then you have to check yourself, right? It still goes
Okay.
back to you. People who are off who are used to your generosity, your acts of generosity, they want that, right? They want it. Now you're not giving it to them. So now they're trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with him? Surely something's wrong with him, not me. So I need to push and be more assertive in getting what I want. But then that's when you come back and say, no, I know how it was, but it's no longer that way. And then, believe it
Okay.
or not, sometimes that's how we separate the wheat from the tares. That's how we get to find out who are really and truly for us, right? Who genuinely want us around and in their lives, or who's just there to just do this. They're there as
Mm.
long as they can do this, and as long as you're giving, that's how faithful they'll be to the giving. But when the giving stops and they're no longer there,
Mm.
you just
Okay.
saved yourself. You just rescued yourself.
Right. I'm following. So we got a question from the audience. My man, Next Level Talk said, when you set boundaries, are you really living in your authentic self?
Yes, you have to, because like I said, a taker is going to take. We are among the people that we have in our social circles. Sometimes we don't want to really believe it, but we are around people who really don't have genuine hearts. And because we just want to see that side of them, we push our own agendas because that's not who we are. We know that we are an authentically nice or authentically giving, a giving person. That doesn't mean that everybody is genuinely taking from us because, oh, we have such a great heart, and I know that they really love me and they're really trying to give to me. You have some people who are like, you know what, who can I call on right now that's going to give me what I need, that won't ask a lot of questions but will show up for me at the drop of a dime. You have people that do that. It's just that we don't always want to believe that they're in our close circle.
Mm. So can I test people? Is it okay if I test them? Like, even
Now
though
we
I
don't,
made,
nope, no, we don't need to
uh,
test people. We don't need to
hold on,
test
hold on, hold on,
people.
hold on. Hear me out. So let's say I have the energy and the capacity to help this person, but I'm kind of starting to think they might be using me. So I say to myself, the next time they call, even though I may be able to do it, I'm gonna say, well, I can do it. Let's say they say, okay, well, can I borrow $500? And I say, well, I got $500 to give. This is what I'm saying to myself.
Hmm.
But I say, I'm gonna tell them, well, no, I can't give you 500. I ain't give you 500. I'll give you 150. I can't test them like that.
No, because out
Why
of the
not?
abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak.
So break that down.
So out of the abundance of the heart, that's the word. Out of the abundance of the heart, what the mouth will speak. I would question. I used to do that. I would question people all the time. Like, oh my gosh, I got a question mark around this person because I feel like they're not genuine. Until I realized if you really listen intently enough, they're going to tell on themselves.
So I don't
They
think I
will,
understand.
huh?
I don't think I understand. You saying they're gonna end up. I'm going to end up finding out. So are you telling me I should go ahead and do what it is that I should do for them because I have the capacity to
I'm
do it?
not saying that. I'm not saying that. If you don't feel it, if you don't feel you don't feel a genuine pull to contribute, to give to them, don't give to them. If you find that you're giving to them out of obligation, if you find that you're giving to them out of, just because this is what I typically do, and they only come to me when they need, because that's what we do. We give people the pardon, right? Oh, I know that such and such will only come to me when they really need. But how do we really know that they're in need of something? Because there's a lot of people that I thought were really in need, but they were always on vacation. There's a lot of people that I always thought were in need, but they were always out having a good time, right? And then when they finished having a
Mm-hmm.
good time, then it was, I got to pay my bill. I don't know what happened this month. Really? So again, if you just sit back and watch, you'll start to see patterns. You'll start to see how people behaviors. You'll really start to see how people act.
Okay, so what I'm surmising is that if I feel a need to test them, it's in my best interest to just tell them no.
Yes, because you have a question mark. There's a pull at you that's making you feel there's something causing you to feel like I can't or I don't want to give to them anymore. I had a friend of mine, I can't really call her a friend, it was an acquaintance. And every time she would come around, it was always talking about money. It was always talking about something. Oh, my light bill. Oh my goodness, I don't have groceries in the house. Oh my goodness, I don't have this, that, and the other. So one day she told me that they had gotten to like this really bad situation. So I went and picked them up. Her and her kids brought her to my house, cooked for them, everything. Um, and it was back in the day when I was drinking. All right, let's just be clear. Back in the day, I had a half bottle of like Jack Daniels. Instead of her asking me could she take food home for her and her kids, she asked to take the bottle to a party that she was going to later on that evening. Priorities are jacked up. What she wanted from me was for me to give her money and for me to take care of whatever needs she had because she knew that I was a giving person. Nah, no. I'm a giver. I'm
Mm.
not a dummy.
Okay, so I think I got it. If there's a question mark, just go with the no. It'll be easier on myself. Um, Next level talk. He said he wants clarity on the testing. He says, doesn't God give us tests and trials?
We're not God though. That's the problem. We want to operate and act like we are God. We're not God. Why are we? So define tests and trials, because I know tests and trials that I go through is a sickness, right? That could be a test and a trial for me to be able to endure while I'm in this storm. If
Mm.
you're saying a person that you have a question about is mistreating you or could potentially be abusing a situation, I don't need to test them. I am going to sit back and watch and see what they do. I'm going to watch. That's me. This is my own personal opinion. I'm going to sit back and watch how they behave. They're going to tell on themselves. We have to want to see it when they do start telling on themselves.
Okay, so if I have the capacity to help them, but I have the question mark, and I tell them no, isn't that kind of like a test? Because I'm still gonna watch. Aren't I still kind of testing them to see how they're going to respond, or am I just saying no and I don't really care how they respond? Like my answer is no
No,
because you got a
but
question
okay.
mark
So
on it.
why? But okay. So here's the question. So the other question with that, I'm gonna counter that question. Are
Uh
you
huh.
saying no because you have a feeling, a gut feeling that something isn't right? They're not being truthful in their ask.
I'm saying they may be being truthful in their ask, but I think that their ask may be um what's the word I'm looking for? Like I don't really know how to put it. It's not that they're lying. It's that they
They're comfortable. They're comfortable with asking you all the
yeah,
time for
like
what they
I'm
need.
trying to find out. Like they may genuinely need what they're asking me for, but they may be coming to me for the purpose. I might start to feel like, yo, you using me.
Okay, so you can do one of two things. If you don't want to wait, if you don't want to tell them no, right? Have a conversation. Have a conversation with them and say, hey, I noticed that when you're going through your stuff or whatever, you tend to call on me a lot. What's that about? Is there anyone else that you can go to?
Okay. So we are going to be forthcoming as much as possible about our from us to them. And if they got something janky going on, we're gonna let them live in their own jankiness.
Yes. I'm not going to take. Why would you want to take on their burdens? Why would you want to take on their stuff? I wouldn't
I
want to
just think,
take that on.
yeah, I feel you. I mean, you make a lot of sense. I'm trying to find out if I'm a people pleaser, and I don't know if I'm a people pleaser or if it's just that I just genuinely like and feel a responsibility to help people that I can. But
Hmm.
I'm still like I said, I'm still trying to learn the boundaries. That's why I'm glad you talked about the boundaries are for yourself. I never thought of it that way. I thought like, man, I'm setting the boundary. This is your boundary. You can't come across this line, but the
Hmm.
boundaries is my fence line. So that's kind of dope.
Yeah, you're the one who is the giver. I'm a giver, and so I feel a pull to give to people. Right? I have a nonprofit that is called "I Just Want to Help." Like I have a genuine heart for people, and I want to help. Right? Even in that, I've gotten caught up so many times with my nonprofit from people who, I need help with something. Right? Um, but they didn't want to follow the protocol. They didn't want to follow the process to be able to get the help. And then it started to be a thing where I'm going to come to you directly and I'm going to start asking you for stuff. And I need you to give me what I need right away. But then it was never for what the real benefit was. The benefit was to help them with diapers, wipes, and things like that. It started to be, I need a passport. I'm trying to start a new life in the Bahamas with me and my children. Stuff like that, right? So
Hmm.
I had to set boundaries. No, no matter how the story goes, no matter what your tale is, what you got going on, No, you have to set boundaries against people because they will break them. They will try and break them. They will try to get what they want from you because they know you have a genuine heart. You have a big heart, that's what they're going to attack all the time.
Whew. Okay, so
But I
um,
want to be clear on something. You If you want to test the waters and see. But it's not going to bring you peace at night. You will be in pieces. And you want to know why you'll be in pieces? Because you're always going to wonder if such and such calls. It doesn't even have to be that person that's always calling you for money or calling you for whatever they're calling you for. You're going to start putting question marks around everybody, and that will disturb your peace. It will. So that testing thing, I don't encourage it. I don't support that. If that's what, you guys want to do, go ahead. But you will not be in peace. You will be in pieces. When you could just sit back and just let the story play out. We have to have patience in this. We have to understand that, how sometimes you might have like I don't want to say like if you have a smell. Let's say you smell something that doesn't smell right, and you're trying to
mm,
figure out where the smell is coming from. You can't find it. At some point, you're going to find where it came from. You're not making tests. You're going to search for what's going on or what's happening around you, but you're not going to make that your sole mission. You get what I'm saying? You're going to
yeah,
try.
I
You're
think I
going to.
understand.
I just want to be clear in that. I want to be clear, and you could easily disrupt your peace by trying to search for who the weak link is in your circle. If the person is being a user, you're going to knock your peace right on off.
Okay, so I think it's starting to become a little more clear to me. Instead of testing them, unbeknownst to them, I can either just say no and be done with it, or I could just go have a direct conversation with them. Like, yo, you know what? I could even be honest with them. Like, yeah, I could do that for you, but to be honest, I feel like you're using me. So it's like I'm meeting it. It's like I'm meeting it head on, as opposed to spending my time or wasting my energy trying to find out what their angle is. I'm
Trying to
just going
figure it
straight,
out.
straight through.
Just ask, and you don't have to say I feel like you're using me. I mean, you could say to them, hey, have you tried any other resource? If they have not tried any other resource and your first resource was you all the time,
Right. Then you got your answer.
answer like did have you? I know for me, and I go back to me because I know me. I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything for me until I have exhausted every resource. And then I'll
Mm.
come and I'll ask for help. But you got some people who know, well, you know what? I know my man got this. I know he has money. I know he's willing to help. He has a big heart. Let me go to him. And it doesn't have to be money. It could be anything. Any resource that you have that's available that you promote or whatever, and it's something that they can benefit from. If that's all the time, have the conversation. Nobody wants to have hard conversations anymore. Everybody's afraid to say how they really and truly feel. So what they do is they either give in to whatever the person wants or they'll avoid them. Just have the conversation. Hey, I noticed that that you call me a lot with this need. Have you tried anybody else? Have you exhausted all your resources before coming to me? If they tell you no, you have your answer. If they tell you yes, then I would say, okay, well, let me show you another way where you can get it, where I don't have to come out of pocket.
Mm.
And if they don't want to hear that,
Then they're using you.
yes, that was their
Okay.
plan.
Right. Okay, so Nay underscore Ray 0001 said, I genuinely try to help people in need. They may not specifically ask me, but I offer. I feel if I am blessed to be able to help, then I should pass that blessing on. Do you think that is them using me?
No, because you offered it up for yourself. But I would ask, where is that coming from? Where is that need coming from? If someone's coming to you because that's going to open up a door to some other stuff too. You genuinely try to help people in need, so they may not be specifically asking you, but if they hint around to it, if they're always hinting around, when just so happens when you come around and you have an ear to hear those things, you know.
Okay. Yeah, so I think what she's saying is that she's just a giving person, and what you're
Yes,
saying is, you know, if you're just giving and if that's what you want to do, that's what you do. But you want to be able to have that third eye vision or that third ear audible sensory gift to know that these people, you know, payday for them ain't for another week, and they coming in to work, or when they running to you, they like, man, you know, I'm having my light bill. I don't know, that joint kind of high. You already know they positioning
yes,
for the usage.
yes. And then as a giver, especially when it's people who continue to do it, you have the right to say, well, if your bill is due and you are already complaining about not having enough money to pay your bill, and then you're borrowing from me, can I expect to get that back? See,
Mm,
sometimes people are asking too because they don't want to get, they don't want to have to pay it back. And so and no one really goes into, when we have a friend, especially someone close to us, and they're asking us for something, they're in need of something, we don't really go through those channels. But then when it
mm,
starts to become a habit, I don't know about nobody else's household, but I know this is a recession, right? And things are expensive. Expensive. I just paid $500 for groceries, and I'm still trying to figure out what did I get. So if somebody's coming to me asking me to give them money for groceries, right, and I'm giving them money, and then when it's time for them to repay me, or we did discuss repayment or whatever, they're talking about, oh, my check is short, or I don't have this, that, and the other. I'm not getting that back, right? I know that I'm not getting this money back. I know that you were in need, and so you said what you needed to say so that I would give it to you. That's not okay either. It has to be
mm.
honest conversations. Like, we have to get to a point where we're having honest conversations and we're telling people, hey, look, I just don't have it. I don't know when I'm going to get it, but I need your help. Can you help me? Come to me like that. Come to me that way if you really need help with something, as opposed to, you telling me you need help, you promising me that you're going to pay me back, all of these different things. Just come to me and say, look, I need help with whatever, and I can't do anything for you. I won't be able to give it back to you, even if it's not a monetary thing, even if it's just, I need you to help me with whatever, and I can't even help you with anything that you may need help with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. I got multiple questions and directions that I want to go. You mentioned that we need to be able to have the hard conversations. You don't have to go in depth, but have you read the book Difficult Conversations?
No. Mm-mm.
It's a really good book. You should read it. I think you'd enjoy it.
I'm going to write it on my
Um,
list.
yeah, it's called Difficult Conversations, and then there's a subtitle. But if you just search for it on Google, it'll come up. It's on Amazon and all of that good stuff. But I've read that book two times. Like, I've studied the book twice, and then every once in a while I kind of go to my Kindle app and skim through just to recalibrate my ability to communicate and, listen to learn as opposed to listen to respond and stuff like that. Um, One thing I don't want to miss in asking you to kind of recalibrate back to forgiveness. A lot of times on my show we discuss relationships. I'll be live during the week with my man Sam. We discuss relationships and stuff like that. And one of the questions I absolutely wanted to ask you was, how would you coach someone to forgive from being like cheated on?
I had to put my pen down.
It's a good question, right?
You want people to hate me. Like, you really do.
Nah, I just answered the question. You know what I'm saying? I just answered the question and I set them up. You knock them down.
So, okay. We are all deserving of forgiveness, no matter what the act is, period. No matter what it is, we are all deserving of forgiveness. If there is a relationship that the husband cheated, the wife cheated, or even girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the situation is, they too can be forgiven. And contrary to popular belief, the relationship can go on, right? As long as you're understanding that it will not be the same dynamic in the relationship. I think people make mistakes when they say, "Oh, all is well, we've forgiven each other, and now we're going to go back to doing the same thing we were doing before." Well, something happened in that relationship that caused he or she to step out. So why would you want to go back to the same thing, right? To me, it makes sense that you come back to the table and say, well, what happened? Where did I like not someone, the person that was cheated on, saying where did I go wrong? Because no, where did we go wrong? What happened in this relationship that caused you to step out? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like I never promote people to internalize stuff that other people do. But I do say I do encourage people to get to the root, because if you don't get to the root, it's going to show up again, and it'll show up again, and it'll show up again and again and again. And most people are never really upset about the person. I don't want to say cheating, but it's more so the behavior. The behavior caused you to cheat. The act is one thing, but it's the behavior. So if the behavior is never addressed, the root causes are never addressed, you're going to see it again. And then you're going to have to start forgiving again for other situations. It's best to get to the root of everything and find out why it happened, and to see if the relationship can even be salvaged anyway. Sometimes the root, when the root gets pulled up, that's it.
So it sounds like you're saying that the act itself is more an effect of a underlying cause. So if we're going to work our way through this and stay together, we can't just address we can't just address the effect. We have to look at what caused
the behavior.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the behavior. Because the act is what if you cheated one time, right? You cheated one time. We're back together. We're working this thing out. We're doing the thing, but then you have behavior issues. So maybe you don't have sex with somebody else anymore, but now you're on the phone with them. Now you're sneaking and meeting up with them. It's a behavior pattern that you have. You have something going on within you that's causing you to not find whatever you need in the home, but you're going outside the home. So why are you doing it? Where's this behavior coming from? Let's address this. And if they don't want to address the behavior that's causing them to do those things, you don't need to be there in the first place.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Is there a difference between letting go, forgiving, and also like burying the emotions?
Yes, because there's a lot of people who bury their emotions, and they still have unforgiveness in their heart. You have a lot of people who say, "Oh, I've let a situation go," but if that thing resurfaces again, it hits hard, right? And it's because the unforgiveness is still there. And believe it or not, there are some people who are afraid to forgive situations because they feel like if they forgive, that they are giving permission to people to continue to hurt them. The forgiveness is not for the other person, it's really for you, right? It's a weight. Hebrews 12:1 talks about the weight that so easily besets us, right? Weights that we have are maybe I didn't let go of, maybe I didn't properly forgive when my dad didn't come to my graduation. And so now every major event that I have, I'm on his back harder because he didn't come to my graduation. And so in my mind, because I never forgave him for that, anything that I have thereafter, I'm going to wonder if he's going to be there. And that lets me know that I didn't really forgive him. Right? I said I forgave him, but I didn't. I just simply said okay and just buried it and kept going. We suppress a lot too when we shouldn't. And again, I go back to the hard conversations. No one wants to have hard conversations. And when I say hard or difficult conversations, no one wants to talk about those things that easily besets us. No one wants to talk about, hey, I didn't like how, when we were at a party and you brought up something from my past that I didn't want anyone to know about. Most people will just shut down. They'll shut down, won't say anything, have an attitude, and won't talk to the person ever again. And I was that person before, where I would have an attitude. The person didn't know why I had an attitude, but I had it, right? and I carried it, and I had the unforgiveness still within me, to the point where when I would see them, I was angry at them, and years had passed, right? Years had passed, and they didn't even know why I was angry with them. So you have to have hard conversations, no matter how, you know, uh, minor other people may say, because your struggles aren't anybody else's struggles. So what you think, is just the worst thing ever, other people are like, oh, you're tripping off of that, go sit down. No one's going to tell you or be able to no one's going to be able to really feel what you feel. And so the best thing for you to do is have a difficult conversation and explain or express to those people why I'm hurting, why I feel the way I feel. And hopefully you would empathize with that and come to a mutual resolve for the two of you. But if that doesn't happen, the unforgiveness lingers.
And you said early on, without forgiveness, we can't have healing. So,
You cannot.
okay, so I want to heal, and I've gone to my life coach, DeVita, and she's taught me how to forgive. Once I forgive, am I healed, or is there something that I got to do after the forgiveness for the healing to take place?
We got to unpack. You got to properly unpack the stuff, right? Because so when I was coaching, my handle is coach to Christian counselor. So I put my coach hat down and picked up my Christian counseling.
Oh, okay, so that's what that means. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. I was wondering what it meant, but
yeah.
hey, there you go.
So what I used to do with my coaching clients, I would give them a forgiveness list, and they would have homework. And with this forgiveness list and how it looks, I'm going to draw a picture so you can see it. All right. So this would be it. Can everybody see that? It would be a sheet, and it would have boxes, and it would have a place for the name, and
Hmm.
inside the box you would put the act. You would list the acts of what that person had done to you, right? And
Okay.
I always challenge them. Your name should be on this list. You cannot submit a list to me and your name is not on the list. And the reason why, how I like to unpack people, there is a thing as misappropriated actions, right? Or misappropriated anger. Sometimes we're angry with people who did something to us based on how we feel about someone else. Those hidden triggers. I always encourage people to know what their triggers are. I could say I didn't like when my sister would tease me when I was younger, right? So I had that issue with my sister. And now someone else has teased me. So now I'm angry with everybody, but what's the root cause? I'm really angry because my sister teased me. Not so much as what other people have done, but the people that I trusted the most hurt me. The people that I trusted the most abused me in a way that, I could handle it from other people, but I can't handle it from those people that are closest to me. So if I'm sharing an intimate detail with someone and I'm betrayed, I can't handle that from someone that's close to me as I can with somebody else. Somebody else, you're not going to care, but the people that you have in your circle, who you have trusted from day one, and you shared your intimate, most intimate details with them, and they betray you, that betrayal hits a lot harder. And so, what I
Yeah, that was.
have them to do, say it again. I'm sorry.
Nah, go ahead, carry on.
So when that happens, it's good to do the forgiveness action list, because you need to know who the person is that hurt you and what they did. And in doing that, you're going to start to discover, I was really mad at James for doing this, but it was really Patrick who said this to me that hurt me. You start to discover who your anger is truly with, and then you can begin to forgive those people. Forgiveness is a process. It's a lengthy process, because you have to go back. It's essentially having all of these open doors that you need to go and close. The only thing is, you don't know which doors need to be closed.
So when you talk about that, that makes me think about I think he was a psychologist, Carl Jung, Jung, and he talks about he talks about the shadow. And he says
Mhm.
we all have a shadow self, and how we react to present day stimuli through a lens of the past.
Mhm.
And there's this book that I read called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers
Mhm.
by a lady named Debbie Ford. Rest her soul, she passed away now. And the thing that I really, well, the tactic that she gave in that book that I thought was really helpful in terms of dealing with your triggers
Mhm.
is to embrace what someone says about you and admit that there's an aspect of you that does have the quality that triggered you. So the example that I always give, or that I think is one that most people can understand, is say you were to say to me, Marcello, you're greedy. I think you're greedy. I don't like you because you're greedy. And that triggers me. So now I'm screaming and I'm yelling at you and I'm flying off the handle. And the way in which to heal from that is to admit that I have an aspect of greediness to my being, right? And right, and then as you do more work, you come to find out that yeah, I am greedy. I'm not greedy all the time. I'm greedy sometimes, but you turn that negative trait or quality into a positive, and you could look at the good things that being greedy has brought into your life. So now the next time someone calls me greedy, I'm not flying off the handle the way I did when DeVita told me I was greedy. I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever, because I've confronted that proverbial demon. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I was a yeller. Oh man, I was. Listen, I'm getting that point across. You gonna hear me, right? But I didn't want anyone to yell at me. That was standard.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not gonna yell at me. I know you're not about to yell at me. No, don't raise your voice to me. But I would do it, right? Because I felt like I wanted to get my point across, and I would justify why I was yelling. And so I remember my husband, and he is my truth teller. He was like, "Hey, I know you say you don't like people yelling at you, but you yell." And so I was like, "Oh, I do, trust me, I do." And he checked me, right? And it's not a lot of people who can do that, but he checked me, and he was like, "You keep saying you don't like certain things, but those are some of the traits that you have." And so I worked on it. I had to forgive myself because I was wrong. I knew I was wrong. So I had to go through the proper channels to forgive myself. And then healing came. And healing came when I admitted that I was the yeller, right? I admitted my issues. I was in class the other night and the professor said, no one wants to talk about repentance. And I said, well, because if you talk about repentance, that means you have to turn away from something. And a lot of people aren't really ready to turn away from how they are. That's why no one wants to talk
Mm.
about true repentance. Because they would rather stay in that space.
Yeah, that also makes me think about how we project. Like you said, you don't like yellers, but you were really projecting that onto other people. That's not to say the other person wasn't yelling, right? But it's to say
Mm-hmm.
that you see in them the things you dislike about yourself. And I think that's when you really start getting deep into what they talk about, what they call the shadow work, is your ability to see, to watch yourself be triggered by someone who you're not even necessarily in conversation with, or just something about somebody, and then be able to be like, hold on, like, wait a minute, why is this triggering me? Because this must be me, that must be me, that must be the mirror or whatever.
So let me tell you, when God is ready to elevate you, when He's getting ready to take you through your healing journey, your healing process, He will send you a you.
Mm.
He will
That's a good one.
send you a you. And the reason why He'll send you a you is so that you can get down to the root and get that stuff out of you. He'll send you a you.
Do you think that well let me ask someone, Don J 7580 said, is that like skeletons in the closet? Do you think that what they call shadow work, I don't know what they call it in Christianity, it might just be self-work or something like this, something that's more basic so we have a decent understanding. Do you think that's more like skeletons in the closet? Do you think they're similar or no?
I do. I do believe it is, because we all have some skeletons in the closet, right? Like, we all have some things that we work on privately, but we don't want to talk about it in front of everybody. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because especially if we have an image to maintain. Me, I don't care. I am very transparent. I will tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about me. Things that I had to work on, things that God has healed me from, that I needed to be delivered from, because I know it's going to help the next person. And the Bible tells us to bear ye one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. I went through what I went through to help somebody else. So I'm not going to hide it. No one wants to talk
Mm.
about, if you read my book, it talks about what I was doing in 2020. It talks about me running, and it talks about me drinking like I was crazy. It talks about me doing edibles and smoking and all of that, all of those things. It talks about that. When you have and when you have a call on your life, when God has called you to do certain things, like, I know healing and deliverance is my jam. That's a lot. Okay, it's a lot to take on, it's a lot to endure, but I know he has given me the grace to do it. But it's a lot, because when he told me that I had to teach forgiveness, you can't teach something that you haven't gone through, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's constantly putting me in the fire where I'm constantly having to extend forgiveness to people. I even said it today to my sister. I said, I feel like I have to keep my head on the swivel with this thing, because I am constantly put in situations where someone may do something to me and I have to forgive them, and forgive them quickly. There is no, months and years for me to forgive. I have to forgive them quickly, because it's what he tells me I need to do. And sometimes it's hard, but I have to do it. And the way I'm able to do it is I'm able to bear it all. I put everything on the table, because I don't want to carry nobody else's weight. I don't want to be hostage or hold somebody else hostage. I don't want to do that.
Perfect segue into the book. Tell me about the book. What's the title of the book? Where can we find it?
So the book is called I Am Stronger Than the Storm. So this is an anthology. It's a devotional anthology. It's written by women to heal women. Um, and I don't want the men to feel left out. Please don't feel left
Hold on.
out.
I was gonna be like, so I guess I can't read the book, huh?
Right? No, 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 no. And one of the biggest things that I actually catch slack for is I have a passion when it comes to men and women healing, especially men. Um, and I know that sounds weird. It's like, okay, you're a woman. Why are you more concerned about the male? I'm concerned about the male, one, because I have a husband, right? I have a son. I have brothers. I have nephews. I have godsons. I have two grandsons, right? So for me, I never want them to walk around burying their emotions, and not being able to say how they feel, because out of fear, right? Or fear of no one wants to hear it, or being rejected because they feel away. I'm very passionate about that. My son plays football. He's an athlete. If he hurts himself, I'll tell him, hey, cry. Please do.
Mm.
I want you to. Please cry. And he's like, Mom, I don't know about that. No, no, sir. Cry. You can. If something hurts, you're not going to cover it up. You're not going to move your foot if somebody stepped on your foot without saying ow. If something hurts, you need to say it. And I think with our men, and I don't want to make this a racial thing, but our black men are so used to moving their feet when someone steps on it that they've become numb. They've become numb. I don't want that. I don't want that for you all. I want you all to be able to say how you feel without being clowned for it. I want you to be able to cry. If somebody at work pissed you off and you had a bad day and you come home and it seemed like everything is just on your back, you should be able to go to, especially if you're married, you should be able to go to your wife and cry, and she not hop on the horn and call somebody and tell them that you cried. That should happen. Your boys should be able to open up a space for you all to be able to talk about what's bothering you without making fun. Like, I feel sorry for you guys sometimes, because it's like, where do you go? What's your outlet?
Sam, my man, Next Level Talk said, are you sure you want men to say how they really feel?
I do. I do. I'm not scared of that. Say how you feel. I encourage my husband all the time. Say how you feel. Babe, if I get on your nerves, tell me I'm getting on your nerves. It's not going to hurt my feelings, because I know I get on your nerves. The thing is, I know I get on your nerves. And you sitting here acting like I don't know. You need to be able to say, I get on your nerves. Babe, I love you, but you really walking my nerves tonight. Like, it's okay.
So, would you agree that would you agree that men have to be tough? Like, in society?
Tough and then do what?
I just mean, like men, we do most of the heavy lifting in terms of like the dangerous jobs.
Yes.
And we go out into the world, and we are the ones who typically our lives are at risk. Our emotions are at risk a little more because of the things that we have to go out into the world, or the things that we choose to go out into the world and do. So really my question is as a mother who has sons, how do you balance teaching your sons to be emotionally intelligent while still being able to handle the things that the world is going to throw at him or them?
So I'm so glad you asked that question. I encourage him, like I said, I encourage him to share how he feels. I encourage him to be honest, right? Open and very honest about it. But I also let him know too, I don't want to say there's a time and place for anything, everything, because I won't tell my son there's time and place for everything. If he is feeling a way, he has to be able to communicate how he feels. Otherwise, he'll blow up. Now, that is something that I don't want to see happen. I see a lot of people who aren't able to express themselves properly because, we're just not really, you guys are not really taught how to effectively communicate your feelings. And I believe that what happens is, by the time a conversation happens, you come off so nasty at times, right? You come off so nasty because you're hurting and you don't even know. It goes back to my daggone forgiveness list. You don't even know where the anger is coming from. You just know that you're angry. And so, yes, to be able to balance that, I I I I want him to be able to talk to me. If he can't talk, well, no, he can't talk to me. I want him to talk to me and his father. I want him to talk. He has all sisters. He's the only boy. Talk to your sisters. Say how you feel. Communicate those things, because if you keep it in, and then when you go out here in the world and somebody pisses you off, you're going to snap. At some point, you guys are going to snap, and there won't be anything that anybody can do.
Don J 7580 said you can be masculine yet still be human.
You can, and show that humanistic side. Show it, because otherwise you're being a robot.
What advice can you give to women? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I peeped the pause. Smile just cuz, that's my wife. She said, what advice can you give to women in order to receive a man being vulnerable and express their emotions? My wife, before you answer that, my wife always comes in here when we have these types of conversations and she steals my thunder. My next question was going to be, so what tips would you give a woman so that the man can feel comfortable? But this is my wife's question. So what advice can you give to women in order to receive a man being vulnerable and express their emotions?
So let's say this. She will never steal your thunder. She enhances what you have. All right? She's always going to enhance what you have.
I
And you
forgive her
enhance
for
what she
enhancing
has.
what I have.
Yes. Yes. And you're going to enhance her. She's going to enhance you. Iron sharpens iron.
Facts.
But the advice that I can give is create that safe space for him. And you create the safe space by, when he's talking to you, let it be you and him. You don't have to get on the phone and call your good girlfriend. Girl, guess what he said to me tonight? Can you believe it? sitting in here crying and shedding tears and whatnot. No, you don't have to do that. Let him, I ain't gonna do the whole be his peace. I'm not, no. What I'm saying is create that environment. Ask him when he comes home instead of telling him, and I used to do this. My husband would come home and I'd be like, baby, you take the trash out because I clean the house and I can't have this trash in here. Instead, now when he walks through the door, I check him. I check his countenance. How is he today? Let me look at him. Let me get a good look because I know that his job, everybody on his job done tore him up. So let me get a good look at him first. See how his day has, what his body language is, and go from there. And then I talk to him, babe, how was your day? Like, if it's budget season, I know it's budget season. Is there something that I can do? I'll take Dante to practice, or I'll do this, or I'll do that, something to take some of the pressure off of him. But it's making sure that he feels confident in you, that he can talk to you, that he can come to you about any and everything, even if it's about you. Even if you said or did something that you should not have said or did, or maybe it was right, but the time was off, right? Because sometimes timing is everything. Show him that even if he comes to you with a grievance and it's about you, that he can do that. Otherwise, he'll be a robot. And he'll be a robot even when you want him to be human. He'll still be the robot.
That was a good answer. If y'all, click the little hearts in the bottom right there, or click the like button on YouTube if you enjoyed that answer. How do we? If I asked you this already, just let me know. You know
Sure.
how someone hurts you, and then let's say you go through the process of forgiveness. I've made my list. I put the name at the top, and I
Mm-hmm.
listed what they did, and I tracked it all the way back, and I say, okay, this is why I'm hurt, why I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
But my mind wants to continually bring that thing back, or it just kind of pops in and pops out. Even though I've been through it, how do I kind of cope with the reoccurring thoughts of the pain that someone caused me?
Forgive again.
Man, just repeat the process.
Forgive again. I think we've confused forgiveness with forgetting, right?
Okay.
Um, those things happen to tell the story. And when they come up again, they're, you know what? Let me do it this way. I was molested when I was younger, when I was a kid, right? And that was a lot of forgiveness that I had to do because it was hard, right? Especially because it was my stepfather. So it was very hard for me. And I lived with them. So it was hard for me to try and even think about forgiveness. And I live with you, right? And even as I got older, those behaviors or the way that I felt about that abuse showed up in other relationships. It manifested itself in other relationships because I never dealt with it. It wasn't until I started to properly unpack those things and really get to the root cause of everything and finally forgive him for what he had done. When I tell you I forgave this man on Christmas Day, he died 4 days later. The significance is 4 days later is my birthday. So he died on my birthday. That was my healing. That was my beginning of a new thing, right? I asked God to have mercy on his soul, and I told him all was forgiven. And when he looked at me, he couldn't talk. He could just look at me, and I'm standing at his bedside. His own children didn't come to the hospital with him. I was there, standing at his bedside, talking to the doctors, making sure everything was good with him and for my mom, right? But he's the one that hurt me the most. They did, him and my mom. They hurt me the most. But I showed up. And the reason why I know now why God had me to show up is because for such a time as this, I needed to forgive him so that I could heal, so that I could be able to talk about this now to other people to bring them out of that horrible pit. And even like there are times now because I talk about it a lot, like when I'm talking to my uh clients or whatever, it could come up like, dang, that did happen, didn't it? And I forgive again, and you just keep going. It's not suppressed.
Mm,
You acknowledge the feeling and you forgive again. He had a sickness. I showed empathy toward I had to show empathy towards him. I had to understand something happened to him. And what he was doing, he wasn't attacking me. He was attacking whatever he was going through. So I took myself out of the equation because it was bigger than me. Um, and I extended that forgiveness and I kept going.
okay, we have two quotes. I mean, two audience comments. Camille said that's hard. I don't think everyone and everything needs forgiveness. Nay Ray 001 said, "Wow, thank you for your vulnerability." Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Like, that was amazing.
Of
That's
course.
brave. And my man, I am Kenton Wiley. I don't know if y'all follow each other. That's my Kenton Wiley. That's like my brother. He's a reverend. He said, "What are your
Okay.
thoughts when moms and grandmothers are telling their daughter and granddaughter, 'Don't go get a weak man'? Now we have women slash wives not creating that open environment for a man to, I guess I can't see the whole thing, express his emotions."
So I guess what's a weak man? A weak man now is identified as someone who shares how they feel. That's a weak man.
Well, I think that the way you see it correct and is the correct way of going about it. However, I don't think most people view it that way. I think most people think that a man that expresses his emotion, other than when that emotion is something that is tied to an extreme, like anger. Like most people are okay. Like if you see a man angry, most people are kind of that's par for the course, right? But to see a man kind of sad or downtrodden is what will get him the label of being weak. So
And see,
you see
that
what I'm saying?
bothers me. That bothers me a lot. That it actually grieves my heart a lot. And the reason why it grieves my heart is because of this. If I see a woman sad, melancholy, whatever the word I want, key word I want to use, I'm going to ask her, "Hey, what's wrong?" If I see a man in the same way, I'm going to ask him what's wrong, right? When did we get to a point where we don't care about the emotions of anybody simply because of their gender? When did we get to this point? When did it become a thing? Because is the woman weak because she's vulnerable? Oh, it's expected of her because she's the woman. Okay, if we're going to look at it that way, who placed the expectations? Who said that a man can't show his emotions? And it was a father who was told that he couldn't show his emotions. And it comes from the other father that showed him that he couldn't show his emotions. And those were the men who stayed outside in the barn or in the shed, working on cars, drinking, or hanging with friends and was never home. Why? Because they did not have peace in the home. They couldn't be their authentic selves in the home. To the mothers that do that, to the grandmothers that do that, they need to heal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a man, it's embarrassing to have certain emotions overcome you in public.
Okay, so let me
Um,
ask you this. Let me ask you this, because I love this. I love this. I like to cry. I don't like to show my emotions, right?
mhm,
And I remember one day being at work, and my someone very close to me, extremely close to me, passed away, and
mhm,
I did everything in my power to not break down. And I got to work, and one of my engineers came in my office to talk to me, and I lost it. I was so upset, right? But I needed that
mhm.
release. So with men, my fear for them is you're going to hold in all of this anger, the frustrations, or whatever, and you're going to get out in a place where you feel like I can't do this in public, and that very thing that you feel like you can't do will happen when you can release it as it
So
comes
you're
open.
saying, so you're saying it's going to happen anyway?
It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah,
We
well, I
can't
think that.
control that, right? Because you know how people say sweep it under the rug, sweep it. I actually have an illustration. I have to find it and I'll send it to you so you can share it on your page. I have an illustration and it was so powerful. of people sweeping things under the rug, right?
Mm-hmm.
That rug was so lumpy and so big, and it had all of these different words up under it to show what they were sweeping under the rug. The point of the picture was not everything can be swept under the rug. It's going to start spilling out. So you
Mm.
have to show your emotions, and it might not, it might spill out in a way that where you're a good man, right? And let's say you've had one of those days from hell, and all it takes is for you to get a call, an opportunity, or something like that, and all of these things have been on your head, and you explode, and now you're going to get a name for yourself because you didn't take the time to feel your feels. Opportunities will come for you, right? And it could be the greatest thing to happen for you, but you have not dealt with the things that put you, that made you feel away. And all it takes is for that one thing to happen, and you blow up at the worst time, when you could just share your feelings, especially if you have a spouse, or especially if you have a really good friend. You should be able to have at least one person that you can share how you feel.
C. Thomas Work says, why is it associated with gender? The pressure on men to be brutes and callous is absolutely unfair. Um, I think because of human history, um, men have fought the wars. I'm a cop. I don't know if you do that. I'm a cop, right? And so when it is your daily task to potentially get into a fight or to take a life or to have someone attempt to take yours, um, there's kind of a mental process that you go through to detach from the emotions of
Mm-hmm.
what may come. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I would also add that I don't think society completely shuns men who show their emotions. Obviously, if I'm grieving a death, society is more likely to be like, oh, he's grieving. We understand that, right? But if I come into work and I get to crying because my wife said something that hurt my feelings, society's gonna be like, oh, what's wrong with Chels? Oh, his wife hurt his feelings this morning. Like, what? Like, you crying over that? That's what's gonna happen. So because of that, it's like there are certain things that we can be emotional about in the public eye, and there's other things we just gotta be like, whatever, man. I don't even want to talk about it, dog. And then we keep it
Okay,
moving.
so you detach, but when do you reattach your feelings?
Um, I guess it just depends. Now, I mean, because I don't want to speak. I can, if you're asking me specifically, you know what I'm saying. I typically can talk to my wife. I go to therapy every other Saturday. I have a therapist, so I have that community of people that I feel comfortable enough to go to and express those emotions to. But just because I have that doesn't mean that that's the rule. I think that's the exception. You know what I'm saying? And the exception doesn't disprove the rule. I think most men feel like they they don't really have anyone that they could genuinely go and express their emotions to or about unless they actually have a therapist.
But so our job is to encourage people to seek therapy, or seek a counselor, or seek someone that they can go to, so that they too can have someone to speak to get their feelings and emotions out. You have to. It's needed. We were just in, and we're still, for all intents and purposes, still in the pandemic, right? So imagine the people who were home by themselves, or home with their oppressors, home with their abusers, or what have you. It didn't have any scapegoats, didn't have anyone to talk to, or whatever. Those people need help. They need somebody to talk to. And if they don't have anyone to talk to, they're just walking around here looking like zombies because they're so, all of their emotions are inward,
Mm-hmm.
something's going to happen. One thing I know to be true: when we don't really express ourselves, it goes back inward. And when it goes inward, it becomes other things. It manifests itself in other things. Stress leads to ulcers, heart attacks, strokes, all of that. So at what point do we open up to someone? You have to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. But I try to separate, my experience from what I believe to be the norm based on people that I know. I know some really well-adjusted people,
Hmm.
and some of them are probably, some of them will come to me and be like, "Yo, I just want to holler at you." Like, okay, cool, what you want to talk about? But others are probably just like, nah, I'm good. I'll bury it. But let me ask you this: how do you want the world to remember you?
How do I want people to remember me? That I desired to be well and I became. That's how I want the world to remember me. I desired to be well, and that's actually a scripture. And actually, the backstory is that's how I actually gave my life to Christ. He asked me if I desired to be well, and I told him yes. And in telling him yes and committing my yes to him, all of those things that I was enduring, all of those things that I went through, it's I'm not going to say, it has no effect, it had no effect or anything like that, but I see it so differently now. I value my healing. I value what he's doing in and through me, and I value what he's allowing me to help with other people. And that's how I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered that I answered the call. When he asked me if I desired to be well, my answer was yes, and I became. That's how I want people to remember me.
Okay, okay, that's a beautiful answer. Now, this is the first time we've ever talked. I don't know if you watched my show before, but this is the part of the show where some people do really well, some people don't. Top five, dead or alive. So you have to tell me five people, dead or alive, real or fictional, that you would like to sit down and have a one-on-one intimate conversation with.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. All right.
You want to take a break right quick? I do got this
Oh,
is the first time ever I really had to go pee, so I'm wondering if you want to take a break, we can right quick.
so first person will be Jesus.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I commune with him daily. But Moses, and I love Moses. I identify with him a lot from the Bible. I would say, let's see, dead or alive. Malcolm X
Real
is
or
one.
fictional? Malcolm X. Okay, so we got
Malcolm
Jesus,
X is
Moses, and
one.
Malcolm X, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Who else? Dead or alive.
Real or fictional too.
What's the guy's name? Oh my goodness. He was a gangster. I can't think of his name.
Al Capone,
Bumpy Johnson.
Bumpy Johnson. Okay.
Bumpy Johnson.
Who would you want to ask him?
Huh?
What would you want to talk to Bumpy about?
So I know Bumpy was a gangster. He
Hmm.
really had a heart for people.
Okay.
He really and truly had a heart for people, and so I just want to know. There was he it was I had read something where it talked about he was very smart, very smart. Oh my gosh, very smart. And he said that he didn't have the same opportunities as white people, and so he picked that life. He didn't have the option to pick another life. He picked that life. Um, and so I would love to sit and talk to him. And one of the questions that I would ask would be, what advice would you give to people now? Like, what would you say? What would you say to the young black men now? What would you say to young black women now, who actually have a choice? What would you tell them? Because I think a lot of
Mm,
people we have choices and yet we still choose to make the wrong ones. And then you have people whose hands were just definitely tied, and the opportunities that we have, um, it just wasn't extended to them. So yes, so Bumpy Johnson
mm.
would be one of the people that I would want to talk to.
Okay, first time forever in my show. You got four people, and I've been holding it. I gotta take a break right quick. Don't leave. I'll be
Okay,
right back.
okay.
Whew, okay. I made it.
That was
All
funny.
right, so hey, that's the first time I've been doing this for a long. I've been doing this for well, not quite a year, but I've been doing this for almost a year, and I've never got to the point where I was like, yo, I really, really, really gotta go. But Jesus, Moses, Malcolm X, Bumpy Johnson. Who's number 5?
Oh my goodness, number 5.
Dun, dun,
Mm,
dun. This is where it get hard for most people. Mm.
I would say sit down and have a conversation with. You know what? Barack Obama. I would want
Why
to sit
Obama?
down and have a conversation with him. Just to hear, just we know him as the president. You don't know him as anything else, right? I can't say I
Mm-hmm.
know him intimately, but just to get his real, true perspectives on a lot of different things, especially how we are now. Um, just to sit and talk to him.
Yeah, he comes up a lot. Malcolm X comes up a lot. Jesus is here and there. No one's ever said Bumpy Johnson, and no one's ever said Moses. So you got a real good you got a good top 5. I always type them into my other phone, so let me put Obama in so that I can make sure I have him in if I ever have to come back to it. So cool. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sitting down with me. The conversation has been great. I'm looking forward to the replay. Whenever I watch the replay, I always be like, man, I should have asked this or I should have asked that. So hopefully I didn't miss too many openings. But at the end of my show, at the very end, thanks for everyone who's made it all the way to the end. I give my guests an opportunity to ask me a question since I've had the opportunity to pick your brain for the last hour and about 20 minutes. So if you have a question for me, this is your moment.
I didn't think of. Can we open it up to the guests, to the audience?
If you want to open it up to the audience, what I would do is I would end the live because what happens is if it goes too long, the feed will get frozen when I get ready to edit it, and then I got to screen record it. So if you wanted to keep going, we would end it here and then come back for like an impromptu part 2.
Okay, that works. So you
All
guys
right, cool. So
get your questions together.
cool. So the 10 people in the chat right now, we're gonna ask that y'all come right back for the live. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'm just gonna end it. I'm not gonna end it. I'm gonna stop it for right here for YouTube, and then we'll just keep going.
Okay.
All right, cool. So it's been real, Miss DeVita. I appreciate you. I love you, Black woman. I appreciate you sitting down with me. The conversation has been great. I'm looking forward to the replay. And y'all be good. Peace.